What's up guys, it's your girl Sierra and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, it's going to be my true crime series episode 2. First, let me address my nails because you're going to see them a lot in this video because I talk a lot with my hands. And my nails, disgusting, and we're not even going to acknowledge them, okay? I broke 7 fingernails and my fingers are burning, so I have chopped like nails and stuff on my nails, and then I still have my pinkies on because they're not coming off, and when I try and lift them off, my real nail starts to lift up and that does not feel good, let me tell you. So let's ignore my ratchet nails, please, and thank you. Okay, so for my second episode, I wanted to talk about the case of Colleen Stan. This case is very similar to the first true crime episode I did with JC Dugard, just because these are like the kind of cases that like intrigue me the most. I'm not gonna do all my cases like this. My next video will be something completely different, but yeah. And I thought that it would be better to start my series off with people that were found or have escaped or whatever before I get into people that unfortunately were murdered or were never found, things like that. So I thought that it would bring a little bit more light to the channel if I started with things that ended on like a positive note, you know. Also, I like doing videos on people that you guys can see more about, like, because you know when you watch my videos, the video's not gonna tell you the whole entire story. I like when I can give you guys more resources, like a documentary or a movie or a book, something that you guys can further look into the case, because you know you're not gonna get the full spill over here on my channel because then it's gonna be like 2 hours. If you hear background noise, it's either my baby that is singing in her crib right now or my boyfriend that is playing a video game right now. So if you guys want to hear the case of Colleen Stan, then just keep on watching. Colleen Stan, aka the girl in the box. Colleen Stan was born on December 31st, 1956 in Eugene, Oregon. In my research, I wasn't really able to find much about Colleen's childhood or her relationship with her parents or her family, like anything that involved her before what happened to her. I can't really find any information of, so I'm not going to talk about her childhood or anything because I don't know that information. Maybe if you watch a documentary or something, that'll be there, but I haven't seen any documentaries. I have seen the movie that they have on this, but you know the movies are in real life are always, you know, not really the same thing, so I'm not going to speak on her childhood. I'll just start from what happened to her. On May 19th, 1977, when Colleen was 20 years old, she was hitchhiking from her home in Oregon to a friend's birthday party in California. She was an experienced hitchhiker, so she had no problem hitchhiking. She felt like she had a good eye of whose car she should get in and whose car she couldn't, because like I said, she hitchhiked a lot. She had taken 2 rides before she got into the wrong person's car by other people, and she was perfectly fine. So as she's, you know, waving her thumb out, waiting for somebody to come and try and get her, a blue van pulls up, and in this blue van is Cameron and Janice Hooker. So a little bit of background on the Hookers. Cameron Hooker was born in Alturas, I think that's how you say it, Alturas, California. He moved a lot, and in his childhood his classmates described him as a happy kid. He made other kids laugh. He was like a jokey kind of kid. And then when he became a teenager, his family settled down in Red Bluff, California. And then as a teenager, they realized that the happy kid that he was, you know, no longer, he wasn't like that anymore. He started to be very antisocial and very withdrawn. But they didn't think much of it because, you know, he was a teenager. You know, when people hit puberty or they become teenagers, you know, they start acting all bonkers. So they didn't think that he was capable of all the things that he was actually capable of. So when he was 19, he met a 15-year-old girl that would soon be his wife, and her name was Janice. Janice was an insecure girl. She wasn't really secure about herself, and she liked that an older boy like Cameron that was 19 would show interest in her. Janice described him as a tall, good-looking, funny man. Once he met Janice, everything changed. It's like the dark side came out of him. Janice stated that no matter how rotten or mean a guy was to her, that she would still latch onto him because she was so just insecure with herself. Janice also described herself as somebody who would give in to what anybody else wants her to do just so that she can feel loved, which I feel like is like, I don't know, I honestly feel really bad for Janice in this whole situation. I just feel like she was a very insecure, lost, lonely girl, and she just ended up with the wrong man. Now Cameron was into some really dark, crazy sexual acts, and when he started going out with Janice, he asked her if he can hang her from a tree by leather handcuffs. And he told her that he had done this with other girlfriends. And Janice, being the insecure younger girl that she was like, you know, like, of course, because she just wanted him to want her. She didn't enjoy the sexual kind of acts that he would do, but after he would do those things to her, he would be like super loving and affectionate, and that was what she liked. That was what she craved from him, and that was why she did what he wanted her to do. So the longer they were together, the more sexual acts that he would do with Janice. And then in 1975, they ended up getting married. And once they got married, their sexual acts just completely expanded to being a lot of really dark things. He started whipping her, he started choking her, he would still tie her up and do handcuffs, do like bondage kind of acts. He even was doing underwater submissions, and he almost killed her one day. So obviously Janice got kind of tired of him treating her this way, so she agreed, or they had an agreement, that they would have a baby if Cameron ended up kidnapping a girl and making that girl his slave, so that he wouldn't have to do those things to Janice, so that Janice can have a baby with him. So since they made that agreement, that is how they came up with the plan that they had to kidnap a girl to be his slave. And then this is where Colleen comes into play. So let's get back to it. So she sees them in the blue van, and she feels comfortable with getting in the car because it's a man that, first of all, Janice was 19 and Cameron was 23 at the time that they kidnapped Colleen. So when she sees them in the car, she seems like this. She sees this young couple, and there's an 8-month-old baby girl in the back. Now, I kind of feel for Colleen, because I feel like if I see a young couple with a baby in the back, I'm not gonna think, you know, that they're gonna do anything to me. You know, there's a baby, like. So she comfortably gets into the car. So they told her that they were heading into California too, so that they can give her a ride, and she went into the car. On their way there, they ended up stopping at a gas station, where Colleen ended up getting out of the car and going into the bathroom. Now, when she said when she was in the bathroom that a voice in her head told her to jump out the window and run and never look back. And this is, I said this in my last video, your intuition is literally everything. I'm so big on intuition, because my intuition is everything to me. Every time I have like the slightest of feelings of something is bad, like something bad is happening, I'm always right in the end. So always, girls, trust your instincts. Trust your instincts. These voices are telling you things for a reason. So she obviously ignored the thought that she had in her head, and she ended up getting back into the van. Now, when she got back into the van, there was a wooden box on the seat. She didn't really think much of it. She didn't know what it was. So it was just the wooden box that was next to her. And they ended up continuing to drive towards California. On their drive, when they're on the highway, when they're in like more of an isolated kind of area where there's no cars or anything like that, he ends up pulling the car over, and he ends up taking out a knife and putting it against her throat, and forces her to put her head in this box. Cameron was a lumber mill worker, so he knew how to build things. So he built this box himself, and it was a head box. I'm gonna insert a picture. It obviously looks like you cannot breathe in there. I would literally freaking die if I was in that box, because I would imagine that it literally feels like you're suffocating, because your head is literally in a box. This head box it prevented light, it prevented sound, and it prevented any fresh air from coming through. So imagine like the anxiety that she was feeling with her head in this freaking box. Oh my god, I can't. She had to keep her head in the box until they arrived in their home in Red Bluff, California. So when they arrived to their home in Red Bluff, California, he tied Colleen up, he handcuffed her from the ceiling, okay, and he tortured her, he whipped her, he blindfolded her, he gagged her, and then he left her hanging there while him and his wife Janice were having sex underneath her. So imagine, she just goes through all this torture, and she's literally hanging from the ceiling while these people are doing it right under her. Cameron had a serious problem when it came to like the bondage thing and like the hanging, like the real like sexual torture. He had an issue with. I'm not gonna insert clips of bondage and those kind of things. If you want, you can Google them if you want to see them. It's basically just where, you know, you're all tied up. I don't want to include that in my video because I feel like it's a little too graphic, but if you want, you can definitely go Google it and see what I'm talking about. He made Colleen's life like hell. He did, you know, all he did was torture her. He electrocuted her at one point. Now, Cameron had a wooden box for Colleen, and this wooden box was going to be her home for the next 7 years. The wooden box was placed under their bed, so she literally slept underneath them in a box where it was the same thing, where it was no light, no fresh air. It was obviously hot and uncomfortable. It's like sleeping in a coffin. So she was to be in this box while he was at work. She was only allowed out when he was there to torture her or to give her some sort of food so that she can survive. 8 months into her captivity, Cameron told her that she had to sign a contract. And this contract was stating that she was now their slave. So she needs to abide by everything in the contract. The contracts had a bunch of rules, basically that he was allowed to do whatever he wanted to her, whatever sexual acts, and torture her and do whatever, and she had to comply with whatever it is that he wanted her to do. He had to call her master. She had to call him master. She had to refer to Janice as ma'am, and Colleen would be referred to as Kay. He told her that he was a part of this very large and powerful organization called the Company. Now, the Company is the person who told him that he has to have her as his slave and whatever. This Company was completely made up, you guys. He was just trying to brainwash her, and she did believe it. He told her that if she ever tried to escape, that the Company would bring harm to her and her family. And I feel like that's always like the worst thing to say to somebody, is that if you do something, it would bring harm to your family, because it's going to make you so much more scared to even risk it, because you obviously don't want any harm coming to your family. She was really good at following the rules. She did do what they told her to do. She did comply very well. She never tried anything because she was so scared of what was to happen if she did. She always felt like the Company, he told her that the Company was like around and they see her and they're watching her and stuff, so she never even tried in the slightest to escape. While she was in the box under their bed, Janice ended up having a second daughter on top, like on her bed. So Colleen's right here and a woman is giving birth right on top of her, and they ended up having their second daughter. So years into her captivity, like how it usually is when people kidnap someone and it's been a long time since they've had it, they start to trust them and they start to give them some more freedom. So this is exactly what happened with Colleen. They started allowing her to go outside. They allowed her to jog, to take like jogs. They allowed her to help in the yard. They allowed her to help take care of the kids. She had to help Janice take care of the babies. She even had to help Cameron make an underground dungeon so that he can kidnap more slaves. So in 1981, which was 4 years after Colleen was kidnapped, he actually allowed her to go see her family. Mind you, she was never reported missing. I don't know why. My assumption is that one, she was 20 years old and she was living on her own, and she probably wasn't that close with her family, or she would just, you know, talk to them here and there. So it probably wasn't that big of a deal that they haven't heard from her in 4 years. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I couldn't find any information on her family, but that would be my assumption, because how do you not report somebody missing? So anyways, she was allowed to go visit her family alone on the first day. But mind you, remember, he told her that the Company will be there. The Company will be outside of your parents' house. The Company will be listening on your phone calls. The Company is always watching you. So if you try anything, if you tell them anything, we're gonna know, and we're gonna, you know, basically kill your whole family. So she didn't try anything. She did see her family, and they were obviously excited to see her. They were like, you know, where are you? Why haven't we seen you in all these years? And she told them that she had a boyfriend and that Cameron was her boyfriend. So the next day they wanted to meet her boyfriend, and they did. Cameron came into the house and played the role as being her boyfriend. Her family was very suspicious. Her family suspected that she was in a cult by the way that she dressed, because all of her clothes were like handmade clothes. They weren't like, you know, good clothes that you buy at the store. And she didn't have a lot of money, and she didn't talk to them for all of these years, and then she just pops up But they didn't want to push on it or ask too many questions about what happened to her all these years, because they didn't want to push her away and make her not talk to them again for years. So they just left their suspicions to themselves, and they never said anything to her. Now, after he had already let her see her parents and visit her family, even though she literally didn't do anything, she never made any sign that she was harmed, like she did everything that she was supposed to do, he felt like he was giving her too much freedom. He put her back into being in the box for 23 hours a day, all the time. He told the kids that Kay, which was Colleen, that she moved away. So the kids didn't even know that she was still living in the house underneath their parents' bed, because she was forced to be silent, and she was only allowed out for 1 hour, and that was when the kids were sleeping, and that 1 hour is when he would do all these sexual acts on her. So for the next 2 years, she was in the box for 23 hours a day, every single day. I would literally die. I can't even imagine how she felt or what she was going through, sitting in a box for 23 freaking hours a day. And the only hour that you're allowed to breathe, basically, you're being completely tortured. Like, oh my god, this is like one of the saddest cases I've ever heard of. So after almost 2 years of him keeping her in the box, so this would have made her for like 6 years being captive altogether, he started to allow her out of the box again and allow her to do her chores again, and reintroduced her to the kids and to the neighbors. She even... Do you hear my boyfriend? What was I saying? She was even allowed to get a job, and she ended up getting a job as a cleaning lady at a hotel close by. So since he felt like he had, you know, Colleen in the bag, he was like her number 1 slave, you know, she wasn't gonna go anywhere, he gave her all this freedom, and she never ever tried to escape or do anything. He ended up saying that he ended up telling his wife Janice that he wanted to make Colleen his second wife, and that's when Janice has had enough. In a way, Janice is a victim in this story also, because she was also brainwashed and manipulated, and to feel like she had to do these things for her husband to love her, and she had to allow her husband to do these things for him to love her. I do feel really bad that she felt like it would be better if they just got another girl for him to torture, so it doesn't have to be her, instead of her just leaving him. In my opinion, Janice was also a victim in this whole scenario. She was too scared of him. She was never going to tell him not to do this or not to do that. She didn't want to be the one that was being hung and whipped and electrocuted and drowned and choked. So Janice started to feel really guilty about all the things that Cameron had done to Colleen and to her, and she was tired of it. She was over it, and she didn't want Cameron to make Colleen his second wife. So one day when Cameron was at work, she told her that there was no company, that it was all made up, and Colleen was obviously like, what the freak, like, oh my god. So Janice actually let Colleen free. She took her to a bus station so that she can get on a bus and go home. At the bus station, Colleen ended up calling Cameron and telling him that she was leaving him, to then where he was bawling, crying, sad that she left, and Colleen went home. And Colleen never said anything. She never told the police or her family or anybody what had actually really happened, until 3 months later, when Janice actually called the police on her husband and told them everything. So you can tell that Janice was definitely just over it. She was probably over being beaten and tortured, and she just had enough. So she did report her husband to the police. So when she reported her husband, she obviously told them that they had kidnapped and tortured Colleen Stan. Janice also revealed to the police that in 1976, on January 31st, which was 1 year before they kidnapped Colleen, that actually kidnapped another girl named Marie Elizabeth Stanhake, and they ended up kidnapping her and torturing her. He actually ended up murdering her and burying her body. Now, the body to that woman was never found, and there was no evidence, so he couldn't even be charged with that murder. So he was only charged of the kidnapping and rape and torture and everything of Colleen. So in 1985, the trial for Cameron began. Janice actually testified against Cameron in exchange for immunity. So Cameron Hooker was sentenced to 104 years for the kidnapping and rape of Colleen Stan. Janice obviously served no time because that was the deal, that if she testified against him, she would serve no time, so she didn't. And Colleen, she's living her life. She's very strong in my opinion, and the fact that she never even told, like the fact that she just went on about her life like nothing, like that is one strong freaking girl. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think down below. This case is really crazy. The fact that she was put in a box, like all that was done to her is so absurd to me. Like it's one thing to be kidnapped for 7 years, but it's another thing to be completely like every day like hung and whipped and like, oh my god, I can't even do it. I'm trying to do a couple of maybe like 2 or maybe 3 true crime videos a month. I did find a little documentary on this case on YouTube, so I'll make sure that I link it down below. There's also a Lifetime movie on this whole situation, which I have seen years ago. It's called The Girl in the Box. I don't know if you can buy it or if you can watch it like on demand or something. I have no idea, but there is a movie on it, and there is like an hour-and-a-half YouTube documentary, I believe. I didn't watch it, but I looked for it just so I can give you guys some sort of resource so that you guys can further look into the case. So I'll leave that link down below. I'm really happy that you guys are enjoying this series. Like I said, I love true crime series, and I think it gives me a break from all my other videos, because in all my other videos I'm like, you know, this like kind of like a goofball and like doing random things. Even if it's like a tutorial, like a hair tutorial, I'm still like, you know, saying random crazy things. And I feel like the true crime videos are like the only videos that I'm like serious in. So yeah, I really do enjoy making these videos, and if you enjoy them too, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next YouTube video. Bye.